Good afternoon. Today I'm going to be discussing my modified Pagani design PD-1694 Milsub. As you can see, I've now completed the modifications of my PD-1694. I removed the ceramic bezel insert and fitted this aluminium Milsub bezel insert, and I also removed the Mercedes hands and I fitted these Milsub style sword hands. So I'll show you the original ceramic bezel insert. As you can see, I was able to remove it without any damage to the loom pip or the loom, which is inlaid into the minute ticks and also the engraved Arabic numerals. I removed it using acetone, and as you can see, this could potentially be reused because it's in perfect as new condition. Now, when I fitted the aluminium bezel insert to the bezel, because it's slightly thinner than the ceramic bezel insert, I found that the first time I fitted it, the aluminium bezel insert sat slightly too low on the double dome sapphire crystal, and also it sat slightly too low inside the rim of the stainless steel bezel. So I removed it again with acetone, and I found to get the correct fit I had to use two of those bezel adhesive rings, which I'll show you. So I purchased a set of 10 of these 3M bezel adhesive rings from eBay from a seller called Edward Ianin, and the set of 10 of these cost £12 including postage, which is very reasonable. So using one of them, I found the aluminium bezel insert sat too low on the double dome sapphire crystal, but by putting one on top of the other, it packed it up in height slightly, and that just gave it the perfect fit. If you look at the profile of it now at an oblique angle, you can see it's just the right fit. There's a slight lip of the stainless steel bezel above the edge of the aluminium bezel insert, but however it sits just right on the double dome sapphire crystal. It's not too tall and it's not too shallow, it's just the right fit. And with regards to the bezel alignment, the first time I fitted it, it was sitting too low, and also wasn't satisfied with the alignment of the loom pip and triangle with the 12 o'clock index on the dial, but now the alignment is perfectly correct. The bezel action is also very good. It's got a nice firm bezel action, minimal back play, no lateral side play whatsoever, and the aluminium bezel insert is a good tight fit around the crystal. There's no gap. So I'll just check the alignment to confirm it. Perfect. As you can see, the loom pip and triangle perfectly aligns with the 12 o'clock index on the dial. So I got the fit correct, but it took 2 attempts, as I've discussed, because the first time it was sitting too low, but as you can see, the fit of the aluminium bezel insert is now good to the top edge of the bezel and also the double dome sapphire crystal. Now, the metallic finish to the aluminium and the silver finish to the minute ticks and also the Arabic numerals gives the piece a more vintage aesthetic. The look I was going for was the Rolex 5517 Milsub look, so I wanted the same Milsub style sword hands. Now the 5517 has a printed dial rather than applied indices because it predates the use of Rolex maxi dials and also applied indices, which are made from white gold. And as this PD-1694 has a printed dial rather than applied indices as per the PD-1661, it fits the aesthetic. It does look like a 5517 Milsub with the printed indices, and I think that the aluminium bezel insert complements the vintage aesthetic of the printed dial rather than applied indices. And also like the metallic look of the aluminium bezel insert with a double dome sapphire crystal, because again that looks like the Rolex 5517 Milsub, which also had an aluminium bezel insert rather than ceramic. So it's a nice dome projection of the double dome sapphire crystal. As you can see, it projects above the edge of the aluminium bezel insert. Now the thing to note is, if you're going to carry out this kind of modification and change the ceramic bezel insert on a Pagani design PD-1661 or alternatively this PD-1694, you cannot use flat bezel inserts. They won't clear the double dome sapphire crystal. I've also carried out a similar modification to a PD-1661 using a ceramic bezel insert which has a sloped profile. And one has to use one with a sloped profile. One can't use a flat SKX007 bezel insert because the flat profile doesn't clear the edge of the crystal, both the flat crystal used in the PD-1661 and the double dome sapphire crystal you're looking at here in the PD-1694. With a sloped aluminium bezel insert or ceramic bezel insert, the underside has an undercut on it, and that is just enough clearance to clear the edge of the sapphire crystal. And as you can see, it's a very tight fit, but it does fit. and one can easily rotate the bezel, it doesn't catch. Now when I first fitted this aluminium bezel insert using one adhesive ring, because it was sitting slightly lower, I found that it was a very tight fit and it was catching on the sapphire crystal, so it wasn't satisfactory. It was too much friction and the insert was fouling on the double dome sapphire crystal. But by packing it up with two of the adhesive rings, it gets the perfect fit. There's just enough clearance underneath the sloped aluminium bezel insert. As you can see, it sits very nicely, but it doesn't foul the double dome sapphire crystal. It's just got the right amount of friction without catching it. So I'll give you a wrist shot and you can see how it fits on my 8-inch wrist. Now I have sized the bracelets. I've removed one link because this piece does come from Pagani design with lots of links, and I've got a large 8-inch wrist. I like to size my watches loose so I can fit an index finger underneath the bracelets and clasp at all times, but even with one link removed it's still loose on my wrist, so plenty of links. And I've also moved the 3 micro adjustments, the spring bar up into position 1 to further shorten the bracelet. So it's now perfectly sized, and as you can see it's very aesthetically pleasing. The silver tone of the aluminium bezel insert catches the light very well. It looks very similar to a Rolex 5517 Milsub, which is exactly the look I was going for. And I'm really satisfied with the fit because the sloped aluminium bezel insert has a nice profile to it. It's just flush with the top of the stainless steel bezel, but it's slightly lower than the edge of the double dome sapphire crystal. As you can see, it just projects above it. So the fit's very good. It's very aesthetically pleasing, and I also like the way the silver mirror polished Milsub sword hands catch the light, and I also prefer the arrowhead tip to the second hand to the circular loom pip which comes on the Mercedes set of hands. So very aesthetically pleasing piece. I think the rivet link bracelet suits the aesthetic of the aluminium bezel insert and the Milsub sword hands. Now of course the Milsub came on a grey NATO strap. I have also tried this on a grey NATO strap and it does look very good, but I thought I'd put back on the rivet bracelet with the female pivoted end links because as you can see it does look very nice on the bracelet with the aluminium bezel insert. I like the way the silver minute ticks and the Arabic numerals catch the light. So it's a unique piece. This is the only one in the world. I'm the first person to modify a PD-1694 into a Milsub. So let's do a loom test and we'll see how the loom performs on the new Yaboki's Milsub sword hands. I purchased the Milsub sword hands from Yaboki's, and the website of Yaboki's is seikoboy.com. They cost $26 US. Yaboki's is Seiko Boy spelled backwards. So let's do a loom test and we'll see how it performs. I'm going to use my 100 UV LED torch to charge it up to the absolute peak. Right, so that's now fully charged, and as you can see, the green C3 Superluminova on the Milsub sword hands performs very well. It's brighter than on the printed indices, and also I like the green tone of the loom pip on the aluminium bezel insert. It matches the green tone of the C3 Luminova used on the dial and also the C3 Superluminova used on the Milsub hands. Now this is the difference. The C3 Superluminova used on the Milsub sword hands from Yaboki's is clearly higher performance. It's glowing brighter and it will continue to glow for a longer length of time. I was critical in my review of the Pagani design PD-1694 because the loom used on the dial isn't Superluminova, it's C3 Luminova, and as you can see looking at the hands, this is the difference between Superluminova and Luminova respectively. On the hands, the C3 Superluminova is clearly glowing brighter, it's better quality than the C3 Luminova used on the printed indices on the dial. So that's the difference, but I'm very satisfied with the colour tone match of the loom pip on the aluminium bezel insert, the dial and also the hands. They have the same green C3 tone, and the performance of the Milsub hands is definitely superior to the Mercedes hands that come on the original piece. So as you can see on the dial, the Luminova is beginning to fade to nothing very quickly, but on the hands, which use C3 Superluminova, it's continuing to glow for a good length of time. So it's a notable improvement. The legibility is good, and I'm really pleased with the aesthetic of it. The green tone matches very well. Right, so lastly I'll discuss the piece overall. What do I think of it? Well, I think I've improved the look of it. I think the aluminium bezel insert, and I'll just show you it against the ceramic, the original one, for comparison. I think the silver minute ticks and also the silver Arabic numerals look more aesthetically pleasing than the white matte paint, matte Luminova, which is inlaid into it. It's C3 Luminova, but in daylight conditions it looks like white paint inlaid. I think the aluminium bezel insert fits the aesthetic of the PD-1694 better because it uses a rivet link bracelet as opposed to an oyster style bracelet as per the PD-1661. So I think it's better looking. I like the silver tone of it, I like the way it catches the light, and I think the aluminium bezel insert works better with the double dome sapphire crystal. If it had a flat sapphire crystal as per the PD-1661, yes, I think the ceramic would look appropriate because it would be more like an homage to the current Rolex Submariner dates. But this now is an homage to the Rolex 5517 Milsub because we have the same Milsub style sword hands and the same aluminium bezel insert with the 60-minute ticks. And therefore I think the rivet link bracelet now suits it better than having an oyster bracelet, or alternatively if this had a flat sapphire crystal. I think the double dome sapphire crystal looks like the plexiglass domed crystal used on the 5517 Milsub. So, very aesthetically pleasing piece. I'm really pleased with how it turned out, although it took a couple of attempts. The first fitting of the aluminium bezel insert didn't fit correctly, as I've discussed. It was too low and I didn't get the alignment correct, so I wasn't satisfied with it. Also, the bezel action wasn't satisfactory. It was too tight because it was fouling the crystal. So sometimes it does take two times to get things right, but I found that by using two of these 3M adhesive rings, it just gave it the correct fit. It just packed up the bezel slightly, as you can see, and therefore now it's got the correct fit. The bezel action is good, and also it's got the right profile to the top edge of the stainless steel bezel and the top edge of the double dome sapphire crystal. So with regards to the aluminium bezel insert, I purchased it from AliExpress from my watch code store for €13. And the hands came from Yaboki's for $26 as I've discussed, and the 3M bezel adhesive rings came from Edward Ian on eBay for £12. So inexpensive modifications overall, but I'm absolutely delighted with the end result, as you can see, and it's now a very good looking piece. So I hope you've liked my discussion of my modified Pagani design PD-1694 Milsub. Please feel free to post your own comments below the video. Thank you very much.